The World Cup knockout stage used to be simple. Win or go home. Lose and you're on the next flight out. But in 2026, that simple idea gets complicated. And honestly, a little chaotic in a fascinating way. Because the moment the group stage ends, the tournament doesn't just continue like normal. It basically rebuilds itself into something new. And here's the weird part. Even if you understand football perfectly, this new knockout system can still feel confusing. So let's break it down in a way that actually makes sense in under a few minutes. And by the end, you'll understand why the 2026 knockout stage is basically a different sport hiding inside the same tournament. First thing you need to know, the tournament got bigger. FIFA World Cup 2026 now has 48 teams instead of 32. That sounds exciting until you try to fit that into a normal knockout bracket. Because 48 teams don't cleanly become 16 or 8 like before. So the system does something clever, or depending on who you ask, something slightly chaotic. It creates more qualifying spots for the knockout stage, and that's where everything starts to change. In theory, more teams means more opportunity. In practice, it means the knockout stage needs extra rounds just to make the math work. And that's where things get interesting. Here's the first big twist. Not everyone who reaches the knockout stage gets there the same way. Some teams qualify directly. Others sneak in through what used to be almost good enough position. You know the type. Third-place teams who normally would have gone home early. But now, they might still survive. And that changes the entire feeling of the tournament. Because suddenly, finishing third in your group doesn't always mean disaster. It might just mean a detour. And fans are going to love arguing about that. The knockout stage doesn't start at 16 anymore. It starts earlier. This is where the tournament stops feeling like a straight ladder and starts feeling like a maze. So instead of top 16 teams, go fight. Here are 32 teams. Survive this first. And this is where weaker teams suddenly have a real shot. Because one good match and a big favorite is gone. This sounds simple. It isn't. Because more matches also means more chances for chaos, penalties, and those "how did that happen?" moments we all secretly love. Now here's where casual viewers get confused. The bracket isn't perfectly linear anymore. Because of third-place qualifiers and group balancing, teams don't always enter the knockout stage in the most intuitive way. So you might see a team that finished second in a group suddenly facing someone who barely scraped through. And your brain goes, wait, how did that matchup happen? Short answer, scheduling logic. Long answer, tournament math nobody wants to explain at a party. But the key idea is this. The path to the final is no longer symmetrical. It's designed to be balanced, not predictable. And those are not the same thing. This is the part that changes everything emotionally. Third-place teams are no longer basically eliminated. They're part of the system. And that means every group match suddenly has hidden stakes. Even games that look meaningless aren't, because goal difference, points, and placement now decide whether you sneak into the knockout stage or disappear entirely. So when a team is leading 2-0 in a group game, they're not just trying to win, they're trying to rank their future reality. That sounds dramatic, but it's true. Here's something you'll notice immediately. The knockout stage feels stretched. More teams, more rounds, more survival steps, and that changes the rhythm of the tournament. Before, it was group stage, a round of 16 final. Now it's more like, it's not just longer, it's heavier. Every round feels like it matters slightly more than it used to, which is good for drama and terrible for your nerves. More teams means more global representation. More countries get their moment on the biggest stage in football. The trade-off is complexity. The system becomes harder to follow at first glance, but once you understand it, it actually creates more unpredictable matches, and unpredictability is basically fuel for football fans. Remember that simple knockout stage we talked about at the start? Win or go home. Well, in 2026, it's still that, but only after you survive a much more complicated path to get there. And that's the real twist. The knockout stage didn't disappear. It just got layered. More teams, more rounds, more chaos, and way more chances for something nobody expects. So here's the real question. When everything gets more complicated, does it make the World Cup better? Or just harder to recognize? Either way, we're about to find out. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more simple explanations of complicated sports systems.